We have to read it, or we have already read it? No.
No,
We have to read it.
Okay. So, Archana ji, you can start.
Yes, Sangha. Yes, Sangha.
Yeah.
Therefore, that there may be at all any possibility of a yoga of devotion, we must assume first that the supreme existence is not an abstraction or a state of existence, but a conscious being. Secondly, that he meets us in the universe and is in some way immanent in it as well as its source. Otherwise, we should have to go out of cosmic life to meet him. Thirdly, that he is capable of personal relations with us and must therefore be not incapable of personality. Finally, that when we approach him via human emotions, we receive a response in kind. This does not mean that the nature of the divine is precisely the same as our human nature, though upon a larger scale, or that it is that nature pure of certain perversions, and God a magnified or else an ideal man. God is not and cannot be an ego limited by his qualities as we are in our normal consciousness. But on the other hand, our human consciousness must certainly originate and have been derived from the divine, though the forms which it takes in us may and must be other than the divine because we are limited by ego, not universal, not superior to our nature, not greater than our qualities and their workings as he is. Still, our human emotions and impulses must have behind them a truth in him of which they are the limited and very often, therefore, the perverse or even the degraded forms. By approaching him through our emotional being, we approach truth, that truth. It comes down to us to meet our emotions and lift them towards it. Through it, our emotional being is united with him.
Okay. So, he is talking about the conditions, okay, what we have to assume if we have to approach the divine with love. When you approach the divine with devotion and love, necessarily he has to have a person form. Because if he doesn't have a person form, whom are you going to talk to? You can't talk to water, you can't talk to air, you can't talk to something abstract. There has to be a personality, and it must be a relation of give and take. You must get back what you are asking, you must get an answer. This is what he's saying. Those conditions he is laying out in this paragraph. So we'll have a look at that. And then, why is he saying all this? Because those who are very logical and mentally alert, they will say that there cannot be a personal God. Even spiritual experience is saying that there is no personal God. You enter into the higher mind level and you experience the impersonality of God. So, to imagine that there is a personal God, a lot of problems are there. One of the problems is the suffering and the evil in the world. How are you going to explain all that? So, there cannot be a personal God. Okay? And that's why Buddhism does away with the personal God. Okay? This is what he's saying, and we'll look at the conditions of what he's saying. Therefore, that there may be at all any possibility of a yoga of devotion, we must assume, number one, two, three assumptions he is going to read. We must assume first that the supreme existence is not an abstraction or a state, an impersonal state of existence, but a conscious being. It has to be a personal, someone very with a personal aspect of the divine, okay? A conscious being. Secondly, that it meets us in the universe and is in some way immanent in it as well as its source. Because the argument he is giving now, because otherwise we should have to go out of cosmic life to meet him. Okay? He is not there in the physical world, but he is there in the transcendent. And if he is there in the transcendent, you have to go there to meet him. But he is not there. So, second assumption to make Bhakti Yoga possible, the divine is there in the universe. Because you are in the universe, and if you have to meet him, if he is not in the universe, he has to go out. So, second, first assumption, he must be a personal conscious being. Secondly, he must be also present in the cosmos, in the universe. Thirdly, the third condition to make Bhakti Yoga possible is that he is capable of personal relations with us and must therefore be not incapable of personality. Finally, the fourth condition. Finally, that when we approach him by our human emotions, we receive a response in kind. Because if you don't get a response in kind means the same. Okay. How will you be sure that he exists if you don't get a response? But if you get a response, you are sure that he is there. Yes, sir. This does not mean that the nature of the divine is precisely the same as our human nature, though upon a larger scale. This whole thing is the anthropomorphic idea. Okay? And that God is like human beings, but much more pure, much more capable, much more knowledgeable. Okay? This idea. But it's not like that. It cannot be like that. That finally, that when we approach him by our human emotions, we receive a response in kind. This does not mean that the nature of the divine is precisely the same as our human nature, though upon a larger scale, or that it is the or that it is that nature, or that it is that nature pure of certain perversions and God magnified, or else an ideal man. Okay. So this idea is also not correct. God is not and cannot be an ego limited by his qualities as we are in our normal consciousness. This is an assumption because if you are starting with the Advaita philosophy, okay, then this cannot be, because your premise in Advaita philosophy is that God is capable of everything and he is omnipotent, omniscient and omnipresent. So God is not and cannot be an ego limited by his qualities as we are in our normal consciousness. But there are many religions who have this idea that God is like a king or a judge, okay, imposing rewards and punishments. So the Bhakti Yoga is not like that in India. It cannot be. Okay? But on the other hand, our human consciousness must certainly originate and have been derived from the divine. Our nature also, because we are also divine in essence. So we have come from there, but the law of diminution and distortion makes it absolutely sure that we are divine in essence, but not in our outer nature. Though the forms which it takes in us may and must be other than the divine, because they are limited by ego. They are limited, that's the word. Remember, limited is the key to this conception. Limited by ego, not universal, not superior to our nature, not greater than our qualities and their workings, as he is. Still, our human emotions and impulses must have behind them a truth. Essentially, there is a truth in our relation. That truth we have to find. Behind them, a truth in him, of which they are the limited and very often, therefore, the perverse or even the degraded forms. Degraded forms, love, for instance. Okay? The divine love is infinite and does not require any response, nor does it expect anything. But when that love becomes degraded in the human being, he insists on a response to his love and also it gets degraded. It can easily become hate, as we see so often in the human world. Because it is not true love, but it becomes lust. Therefore, it becomes degraded. It's very common in India that when someone is rejected, they take out all their anger on the person who is rejected and actually kill him even. Even that is common. The newspapers are full of all these type of things that happen. Or they throw acid on the face of the girl who has rejected him. So there is a degradation that's in this talking about. Perverse or even degraded. It starts from love and becomes hate when you don't get a response in kind. But approaching him through our emotional being, we approach the truth. If you go through our emotional being, which is a psychic, not necessarily the vital, we approach that truth. It comes down to us to meet our emotions and lift them towards it. Through it, our emotional being is united with it. If you approach him with psychic, then all the distortions and degradations of the relations get completely purified. That's what it is. Okay. So, a quick summarization and then go to the next paragraph. I'm reading the summary in a gist. Okay. So, if the Bhakti Yoga is to be at all possible, the following must be assumed to be true. Okay. The following must be assumed to be true. Number one, the Supreme Deity is not an abstraction and impersonal only. He must be a conscious being. Number one. Number two, he must be immanent in the universe. He has to exist in the universe. And man can meet him even here itself. Otherwise, man would have to exit the universe to meet him. Number three, he must be the source of all. He must be the source of all. Okay? Number four, he must be capable of personal relations. Number five, he must be capable of responding in kind. All this does not mean that God is like man in his nature, but only much larger in scale, more powerful, but without human frailties. Frailties, weaknesses. God doesn't have those weaknesses, but he's like man. This is an assumption that you often make. God is far beyond human nature. He has no ego, no imperfections. But again, since he is our very source, okay, all human virtues and defects must have some origin in him. In other words, human nature is really an image of divine nature, but limited, diminished, distorted, and distorted. All the elements of human nature have some corresponding truth in him, but shorn, torn off from all impurities and limitations. So every emotion that you have, there is a truth in the divine for that. So, even the wrong thing, okay? For instance, if you take cruelty, okay? What is the truth in the divine of cruelty? Okay? It can become not that distorted human cruelty, but it can become insistence or rejection of what is not needed. Okay? And that's perfectly okay. A calm rejection of what is to be avoided. Therefore, a bhakti yoga is possible and man can approach God through his own nature because of the secret source of connection with him. So he is discussing, and the whole chapter here is the answer to those who think that there is no God. Okay? So he says that a God is possible, but you have to assume these 4 or 5 things. Okay? That's what he said. So we go to the next part. Secondly,
Rangada,
yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
So on the third line of this paragraph, on the third line, a conscious being and a personal being. I mean, the capable of a personal relation, the divine who is capable of a personal relation. So how are they different? A conscious being and a personal being. How are they different?
Okay. See, when a human being attains to the impersonal aspect of the divine, the nirvana, okay, he is a conscious being or not? Suppose a yogi goes to the level of the higher mind and he experiences nirvana consciousness, the Brahman, but it is impersonal. So are you a conscious or not?
Ah, okay.
It's clear, no? So you can be conscious, but you can
Uh-huh.
also be impersonal. So,
Okay.
so after all, when a human being who is a conscious being, he attains to the Brahman consciousness, the witness self, okay, the Atman. When he sees that, there is no person there. So, but you are conscious of. Sunki, you have asked an interesting question. I'll go a little. Yeah. What he is saying
Yes.
is, there is
Mhm.
you are a conscious being in the physical world, but you are not
Mhm.
aware of the impersonal aspect of the divine. Through yoga, you make your mind silent and you go to the witness self. You go to the self. You go to the Brahman consciousness. All the same. Then what happens? You feel yourself to be infinite. Now tell me, who is feeling himself to be the infinite? The conscious being. But I am having the experience. Okay. So you come back and you can say that I had this experience. So you are a conscious being, but you are also uh, experiencing the impersonal aspect of the divine.
Mm.
But there is a higher consciousness in which there is no I. You become the impersonality. Okay. In that case, you are not going. You can't even say that there is a conscious being. You identify yourself with the impersonal. Okay. The wave becomes the sea. So there is no wave now anymore. That's at the higher level. That also is possible. Right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, that's much
So,
better.
yeah.
Helps my understanding. So
Yeah.
unconscious being is kind of the being has, I don't know, like a feeling. So there is even a feeling in impersonal experience, right? Can you
Yeah.
say?
Your free will becomes
Mm-hmm.
a divine will.
I
Because
mean, I
there
mean
is-
that feeling. We
yeah.
can even have a feeling. We can even have a feeling
Yes.
in our impersonal experience.
Yes.
Mm.
There's,
Okay.
there's a gradation. There's always a gradation. Very important concept, the gradation. Okay. So,
Okay.
yeah. It's an interesting question you asked, huh? Conscious being and the, yeah, and the uh,
The
personal.
person,
That was the
yes,
question. Yeah. Okay.
because
Uh,
the conscious is it's a very difficult concept. So
yeah. We can read the next paragraph. Huh?
yes.
Secondly,
Venkat,
yeah, tell me.
I want to ask a question. It is not from this what we are reading,
Okay.
but yesterday I was reading Life Divine. A phrase comes: infinite supermind. He's
Okay.
talking of the infinite supermind.
Uh,
So, is this? My question is he talking of supermind, the whole, the consciousness beyond mind, or is he talking particularly of the supermind, like the supramental?
oh, to be able to answer that, I'll have to see the exact reference. Okay.
My question rather is a general: when is supermind and supramental the same?
Okay, yeah. It is the same. Supermind and supermental is the same. It is the same.
Okay, that was exactly
Yeah.
because he uses somewhere supramental, somewhere supermind, but it means the same. Or does he
Yeah.
use supermind for other concepts also?
Yes, yes. Sometimes you use even the word gnosis. That also is the same.
Okay.
Supermind, supermental, and gnosis are all the same. The third level. But you must be very careful in the context. Sometimes he uses the word supramental to mean supramental. That means above the normal mind. And that case, it will be level 2 and not level 3. Right?
Okay.
And he would put a hyphen. So you have to see the context. You have to be very careful. Supramental. Above the mind. That's why he doesn't like the word supramental and supermind. He likes to use the word gnosis. He said that in some place. Okay? Yeah. So, Sunki, we can read the next paragraph. Second.
Yes. Secondly, this supreme being is also the universal being, and our relations with the universe are all means by which we are prepared for entering into relation with him. All the emotions with which we confront the action of the universal existence upon us are really directed towards him, in ignorance at first, but it is by directing them in growing knowledge towards him that we enter into more intimate relations with him, and all that is false and ignorant in them will fall away as we draw nearer towards unity. To all of them, he answers, taking us in the stage of progress in which we are. For if we met no kind of response or help to our imperfect approach, the more perfect relations could never be established. Even as men approach him, so he accepts them and responds too by the divine love to their bhakti. That taiba bhajate. Whatever form of being, whatever qualities they lend to him, through that form and those qualities, he helps them to develop, encourages, or governs their advance, and in their straight way or their crooked draws them towards him. What they see of him is a truth, but a truth represented to them in the terms of their own being and consciousness, partially distortedly, not in the terms of its own higher reality, not in the aspect which it assumes when we become aware of the complete divinity. This is the justification of the cruder and more primitive elements of religion, and also their sentence of transience and passing. They are justified because there is a truth of the divine behind them, and only so could that truth of the divine be approached in that stage of the developing human consciousness and be helped forward. They are condemned because to persist always in these crude conceptions and relations with the divine is to miss that closer union towards which these crude beginnings are the first steps, however faltering.
So, let's read the paragraph. Secondly, so firstly, I said that there are 4 or 5 conditions to make you have to assume these conditions so that because if you are a very, very intelligent man and you say, no, God cannot be like a human being, then you dismiss the idea of the God being a personal aspect, of God being a personal aspect. So that's why those 5 things, if you believe in them, then a bhakti yoga is possible. Secondly, now the next paragraph. Secondly, this supreme being is also a universal being, and our relations with the universe are all means by which we are prepared for entering into relation with him. So, first of all, he is not only a supreme being which is a transcendent, but he is also a universal being. He is also in the cosmos. Remember the 3 levels, how you can experience the divine? You can experience him in the transcendent, outside the universe. Only the divine, and I remember often use the word in himself, without the universe. That's one example. But you can also see him in the universe. You can see him in the universe, and that's a pantheism. Okay, you see the divine everywhere. Okay, that's a pantheistic attitude. You say that the universe itself is divine. There is no transcendent and there is no individual. Or the third level, you can experience the divine within yourself. The personal aspect of the divine. These 3 aspects, Chandra is saying, you have to believe that he is supreme, but he is also universal. Because if he is not in the universe, how can you contact him? For the Bhakti Yoga. Secondly, the Supreme Being is also the universal being, and our relations with the universe are all means by which we are prepared to enter into relation with him. Sri Aurobindo uses abstract words, but when he says our relations with the universe, okay, other individuals, other animals, other trees and things, okay, mountains, everything is the universe, and you can have relations with all of them. When he says relations with the universe, it means personal relations with other human beings, personal relations with even animals, and even personal relations with things. You may fall in love with a tree, you may fall in love with a mountain, like Ramana Maharshi fell in love with that Arunachala hill. When he was a young boy, he heard the name Arunachala. He was a very young boy then, no question of spiritual life. But when he heard the word Arunachala, it set up vibrations in him. So you can have a relation even with the mountain. Okay. So when somebody is saying relation with the universe, it's relation with everything that exists in the universe. Because otherwise relations with the universe would be very vague and abstract. Relations with the universe are all means by which we are prepared for entering into relation with him. By the way, note also all means, everything that you can turn your emotions towards the divine. Even your anger, even your dislike, okay, everything you can turn to him. Slowly it gets purified, by which we are prepared for entering into relation with him. All the emotions with which we confront the action of the universal existence upon us, again the same thing. Universal existence, the action. That action of the universe can come to you through somebody. He can say very comforting words to you, or he can show anger to you. That's the action of the universe. Or an animal may attack you, or an animal may feel also very kind to you. Okay, these are all action of the universal existence. Are really directed towards him. Okay, everything is for God. In ignorance at first, but it is by directing them in growing knowledge towards him that we enter into more intimate relations with him. And all that is false and ignorant in them will fall away as we draw nearer towards unity. In the beginning, all the emotions that you have, they have a truth in them, as I said. Okay? And the truth can be quite different from what you think it is. Right? Even hate, okay, even disgust, all these things can also get purified, okay, and you can have a relation with the divine. There is a growing knowledge towards him that we enter into more intimate relations with him, and all that is false and ignorant in them will fall away as we draw nearer towards unity. To all of them, he answers. I'll give you an interesting example, okay, of how even disgust and hate for the divine can take you to him. Okay. There's a gentleman who told me this story, and I even published an article in Mother India. His name was Jayati. Jayati. Okay. But in Bengali we say Jajati. Okay. So he was a man who did not like people worshipping Mother and Sri Aurobindo. He had a disgust because he was a very scientific, materialistic minded man. Okay. Then he had an experience once. Okay. And that experience is very interesting. But if I tell the story, again we'll go away from our subject. So I won't go into that. If you want, next time I'll remind you of the story. But slowly, in fact, I can tell you in very short. Okay. He was looking at Mother's picture, and suddenly he saw that the picture is alive. Okay. The picture is alive. And he thought that he's imagining. So he looked away, and again after 5 minutes he looked at it again. The picture is alive. And this was only, today we are on the 17th November. So when Mother left her body. Okay. And this experience of him was 25 years The day when mother left her body, 16th, he is having this experience. He is looking at the photograph and seeing that it is alive. Sorry, 17th only. Then he didn't believe. How can be the picture is alive? Next morning, 18th morning, in the radio, he used to keep a radio by his side. And the radio announced the passing away of the mother of Sri Aurobindo Ashram. Then that suddenly, he said, my God, I saw that that photograph is alive. And now I get the news that she is. So in other words, the personal form of the divine, who is the divine mother in the ashram, okay, she has become universal. And her consciousness is going into everything. And where her picture is there, it becomes alive. Okay. So this experience he had. So even hate and disgust can turn you to the divine. Okay. So a very good example. Okay. So now we'll go over to the next sentence. To all of them, he answers, taking us in the stage of progress in which we are. So wherever you are at whatever level, be it intense love or be it even hate, he'll take you up from there and slowly lead you by the hand, kindly. For if we met no kind of response or help to our imperfect approach, the more perfect relations could never be established. Even as men approach him, so he accepts them. Ye yatha mam prapadyante, tan sathaiva bhajamya. Okay, so sometimes use the word tathaiva bhajate. But actually, the Gita's quote is tan sathaiva bhajamya. So you have to interpret this also verse correctly. It doesn't mean to say that whatever that you give the divine, he will give you back the same, like a commercial business. It's not like that. When you approach him, you are opening yourself to him. You are a closed person. And the more you open your door, the more he can come in. If you keep the door ajar, only slightly open, he can't come in fully. He'll come in as much as you are allowing him to come. That's the meaning of this word. Okay? As you approach him, so he will approach you. The more you approach him with sincerity, the more he will give himself to you. Okay? So, this is the meaning. Ye yatha mam prapadyante. As each one comes to me, so I give myself to them. Tan sathaiva bhajamya. Whatever form of being, whatever qualities they lend to him, through that form and those qualities, he helps them to develop, encourages or governs in advance, and in a straight way or crooked, draws them towards himself. What they see of him is a truth, but a truth represented to them in the terms of their own being and consciousness. Okay? Your nature, what it is, the divine will work in you through your nature. Okay? They will never impose anything strictly on you. What they see of him is a truth, but a truth represented to them in the terms of their own being and consciousness. Partially, distortedly, not in the terms of its own higher reality, but in the aspect which it assumes when we become aware of the complete divinity. Whatever you are allowing, your nature allows, he will give himself to you in that way. This is the justification of the cruder and more primitive elements of religion, and also the sentence of transience and passing. The sentence is a little complicated. Let's get the meaning of it. This is the justification of the cruder and more primitive elements. That means to say, like you go to a temple, you go to Tirupati and you put 100 rupee note in the hundi, and you believe that he is going to give you a response. So, although it is not like that in its crude form, but there is a truth to that. Truth even in your false belief. And what is the truth? As you give yourself to him, so he will give himself to you. Okay. And it gets purified. So this, and the sentence of transience, okay, and passing. And what is that sentence of transience? that your false ideas will disappear and they'll go away. That's what it said. That's what it meant by the sentence. This is the justification of the cruder and more primitive elements of religion. So, and also the sentence of transience and passing. They are justified. What are justified? Your crude ideas of God and your relations with Him. Because there is a truth of the divine behind them. And only so could that truth of the divine be approached in that stage of the developing human consciousness and be helped forward. So, even if you have got wrong ideas of the divine, the very fact that you are thinking of the divine establishes a relationship and he will purify the false idea. That's what St. Louis said. They are condemned because to persist always in these crude conceptions and relations with the divine is to miss that closer union towards which these crude beginnings are the first steps, however faulty. So, even your wrong ideas of the divine will slowly draw you towards Him. And He will purify your wrong ideas. That's very simple. See, having a wrong idea of God is far better than having no idea of God or even denying His presence. So even your false notions of the divine will help you. That's what it is. So we can stop here today. It's 3:38. So next we can take all life we have said is yoga of nature.
Yes, thank you, Lord.
Thank you, Raketa.
Okay. Good
Thank you.
morning. Have a nice day.